So apparently I have a new creepy nighttime habit
Oh
that
no.
I didn't know about.
Okay.
The last few nights, and apparently I've done this before, I giggle in my sleep.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Like it'll wake Steve up. He'll
Oh,
be sleeping, and apparently it's just like,
I don't.
and it's just like a creepy, creepy giggle because he talks in his sleep.
Yeah,
And apparently I do every now and again. I had no idea, but I've been giggling like a little weirdo.
that's
I
spooky. That's,
know.
I think, initial. This, I promise you guys, this is not like a segue by any means. It is, but not on purpose. Speaking of what we're about to speak
Mhm.
about, in that
Yep.
context, that is hella
I
creepy.
know. And I've had some feelings about this house.
Oh,
I've talked about it.
yes,
So now
absolutely.
I'm giggling.
Ugh.
It's not good.
And the thing is, 9 times out of 10, I feel when you ask someone who has talked in their sleep or giggled in their sleep or
Mhm.
whatever, it's like, "What were you dreaming about? You know, what were you thinking about?" And most people are like, "I have no idea,"
Yeah.
right?
Well, I also started a thing because we talk about our dreams all the time.
Yeah,
And I'll have this like really weird dream that I'll be like, oh, I need to remember this in the morning. And then I forget.
of
So
course.
I started making voice notes talking about my dreams.
Do you actually understand them in the morning?
No, they're really weird.
Because I used to back in the good old days when Cody and I first started dating, and he would come over and, like, hang out at my parents' house with me, and then he would leave, like, at, say, like, 11 o'clock at
Mhm.
night, and I would always try to stay awake so that I would receive his text letting me know that he got home safe,
Mhm.
and the amount of times where I was sort of asleep but still awake, like, sort of lucid in
Yeah.
between, and I would get that text being like, "Hey, have a great night, got home safe, I love you," and then I've replied what I thought was, "Good
Normal
night,
words.
love you too," and then I look at the text in the morning and it's like, "Ugh, hairbrush, blah, 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 Jell-O," and I'm like, "That's not what I wrote. That is not what I wrote," and Cody's like, "I figured you were just asleep," and texting
That's
me back.
hilarious.
But anyway, hello everyone. Well,
Who are you?
I don't know. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Dina. Welcome to the Grim
Oh my
Curriculum.
lord, what is happening? Okay, the summer officially behind us.
Mhm.
There's a coolness in the air. We're into September,
Yes.
which I know for a lot of people is controversial because I think the folks that are like us are like, hell yeah,
Mhm.
Halloween, orange, everything, pumpkin spice, let's fucking go, inject it into my eyeballs. And then there's a few folks that are like, excuse me, it's still summer.
Mhm. It's not.
It's not, I'm sorry, school's in. It is
It's over.
spooky season. It's a great time to cover haunting.
And we can't do that without a good old-fashioned Ed and Lorraine Warren story.
Woo!
In the past, we've covered some of their other famous cases, including the Amityville and Perrin family hauntings. This is one of their lesser known cases, but this is going to be changing with the
Mhm.
release of the latest movie in the Conjuring franchise, The Conjuring Last Rites. And I have a bone to pick with this.
Oh, please tell.
After my research in this case, they have very little to do with this story.
Well, shit.
I was shocked because I got towards the end of the script and I'm like, when are they showing up? And then in
Oh.
classic Ed and Lorraine fashion, if you want to know more about our feelings towards them, listen to the other episodes. We've been through this.
And I'm sure we'll mention it at the very least briefly today,
Yeah,
but maybe not at length.
they kind of showed up. They did their investigation. They were like, we're going to write a book about this. They made their money and then they left.
They tuxedo masked the whole
They
situation.
really did. They definitely
Yeah,
did.
swoop in at the end and then leave, and it's like, "You're welcome," and it's like, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
Apart from make it all about you.
Yeah, and you know what? It's one of those things where we're not gonna be discussing them too much in this story. We're definitely focusing more on the family itself and what they experienced. We will have a little blurb about them,
Mm.
but, this is not, in my mind, much of an Ed and Lorraine story.
Well, as I say every time we speak of them, we love Ed and Lorraine in the movies.
Mhm.
In fact, they're, I think, one of my favorite horror movie power couples.
Yeah.
I love them so much.
Real life?
Real life, nah.
Oh, yeah, they
Not
were
good.
not good
Mm-mm.
people. Ed did his share of very, very horrible things
Mhm.
to a specific young woman. They're
Mhm.
just they're not what they are in the movies. But, this episode's gonna be released just a few days after the movie itself. We wanted to tell the story ourselves for those of you who wanna know what really did or didn't happen.
So, we are covering the Smurl family haunting. From 1974 to 1989, their home in West Pittston, Pennsylvania, was allegedly haunted by a demon that tortured Janet and Jack Smurl along with their 4 children in unimaginable ways.
Like with any of our paranormal episodes, we're gonna be exploring both sides of the argument.
Our main source for this episode will be The Haunted, One Family's Nightmare. This book was released in 1986 by the Warrens, along with Robert Curran, as well as Jack and Janet Smurl. This, of course, leans heavily into the idea that their story is 100% true.
We're also using various interviews from witnesses as well as skeptics. The book itself, it's
Hmm.
about 400 pages. Um, Horrible reviews.
Oh
People did
dear.
not like this book. I enjoyed it. I honestly, for a ghost story book, I thought it was interesting. It wasn't too poorly written. It wasn't great, but
Okay.
if you're interested in this kind of topic, I'd say it's well worth a read.
Fair enough. And often my baseline for a lot of these things, whether it's movies or whatever, is did it entertain me?
Yeah, and I'd say it did.
Fair enough. This story is a little bit different because we're not dealing with a residual or necessarily an intelligent haunting. The activities at the house were attributed to demonic energy. So we'll take a second and explain to you guys exactly what that means.
A demonic infestation, as it's referred to, revolves around an entity that has never had a mortal human form. Unlike human spirits, they possess a powerful energy and are often more than happy to show it, and they are described in 3 different ways.
Sometimes they appear as something less than sinister looking and are often described in appearance as angelic. They manipulate the person they come into contact with into doing things that are strange or sometimes even dangerous.
To me, that's the scariest.
To appear as something innocent
Yes.
and convince you to do bad things.
Mhm.
Yes, that's very insidious.
Mhm.
Very
Very much.
much.
We agree.
Yes.
On the opposite side of that, they can take the form of a horrifying looking entity. Believers claim that this is to instill as much fear as possible and feed off of that negative energy.
We also have the black mist apparitions. These are pretty self explanatory and are also the most common. The mist or fog is often followed by a smell that can be described as rotting flesh or sulfuric acid.
Either way, the main goal of a demon is to break down a person's free will in order to possess their body. This can be done over the course of days, months, and sometimes even years.
Before we get into the haunting itself, we're going to start by introducing the Smurl family and the duplex located at 328 330 Chase Street, where the events happened.
The house itself was built in 1896. There are claims that residents who lived there in the years prior to the Smurls also experienced some strange activity to the point where police were called to investigate. It is important to note that these people have asked to remain unnamed and there are no existing police reports to support their claims.
Mm. The town itself is located over mines that have been long since filled with water. Some believe that cave ins in the mines allowed demons to rise up from the ground. Others say that excavated houses were further explored and that satanic shapes made with pig bones were found beneath them.
As time went on, more and more townsfolk told stories of the house. Some reported hearing strange noises coming from it even when it was vacant. Whether or not this is true, there were many parents in the area who wouldn't allow their children to play near it.
And I think even from a parent, you don't want your child playing around in a dilapidated, tetanus infested house.
True.
So even if the parents were just being normal parents and being
Mhm.
like, "Okay, kids, like don't play in the dilapidated house." When you're a kid and you've got this spooky abandoned
Mhm.
building and now the adults have told you not to go,
It's haunted.
it's totally haunted. It just creates this like air of mystery around it.
It's important to note that a lot of these claims happened in the early days of the Satanic Panic. Stories like this were not uncommon at a time when people thought Satanists were hiding around every corner.
Needless to say, the story of the Smurl family did not help put these rumors to rest.
Jack Smurl was a Navy man who found work as a neuropsychiatric technician assisting doctors with electroshock treatment.
That seems like a bit of a jump, but I don't know what he did in the Navy, so I'll leave it at that.
He took great pride in his work and believed that he was helping people. During this time, he saw that mental illness can sometimes lead people to believe things were happening due to what was going on in their brains, and that would become important later on in his story.
When his time in the Navy was over, he returned to Luzerne County with the hopes of getting married and starting a family. He found a job working at a factory where he met Janet at a Christmas party. 1 year later, they were husband and wife.
The couple was deeply religious and well known within their community. By all accounts, their marriage was strong from the beginning. They soon had two daughters who they named Dawn and Kim. Janet was more than happy to quit her job in order to become a stay at home mom to care for them.
In 1972, the family lost their home when Hurricane Agnes struck northeastern Pennsylvania. The following year, Jack's parents, Mary and John, purchased the duplex on Chase Street for $18,000. All they knew was that one side had been owned by an elderly man and the other had been rented out. They had the house inspected and all seemed well. They moved in and sold the northern side of the house to Janet and Jack for 4 grand. Must be
Must be nice,
nice.
can't relate. Strange things began to happen in early 1974. It all started with a stain. Mary had purchased a new red carpet. After it was installed, she noticed a large grease stain on it. That night, she had John clean it and the stain went away.
2 days later, the stain was back. They cleaned it multiple times after this, only to have it reappear again days later. Eventually, they had the carpet fully removed and replaced with a new one. The stain never reappeared.
One evening, Jack was sitting down watching TV after work. Without warning, the TV lit on fire.
I mean, geez, it's the 70s, but you don't expect it to just burst into flames.
And it wasn't a small, it like burst.
I can totally understand. My grandparents are still the kind of people that like unplug the TV when they leave the house.
Mhm.
And with incidents like this,
Yeah.
I can understand why that fear is still very present in their minds.
Absolutely. That was just one of many strange fires that happened in the house. The stove caught fire along with the wiring in his car only days after he purchased it. It was a brand new car.
You better talk to them about your extended warranty. Skeptics often say that this could have all been just due to faulty wiring. However, the car was brand new, and the house had fully passed an inspection before Mary and John had purchased it.
The house itself was in the process of being renovated by the Smurls, which turned into constant frustration. Repairs that should have been easy were often extremely difficult due to leaks and other issues. On one occasion, a drain pipe that John and Jack worked on had to be repaired 5 times before it was fully functional.
Just slight humorous side note, every time I see the word Smurls, I read it as Smurfs.
Me too!
So I keep picturing literally Papa Smurf being like, "This is our new house."
I would watch the shit out of that movie.
Haunted, but it's the Smurfs?
Yep.
Absolutely. Don't steal that. Jack and Janet were extremely proud of their new home, despite the small issues they seemed to be having. One of their projects was remodeling their bathroom. They had installed a new sink and bathtub, only to find it scratched beyond repair the following morning. Several times, Jack would paint the woodwork in the house, only to find it damaged again the next day.
He said he would do like the baseboards and he'd install new ones. And then the next morning, they would be ripped out and scratched and just like destroyed.
You would I mean, your brain, in my mind, they're a very religious family,
Mhm.
obviously, so maybe their brains did jump to spooky conclusions. But for me, it would have me instantly turning on my family members because who
Yep.
else? Right? I'd be
Mhm.
like, is it the kids? Are you, my wife, trying to spite me?
Yeah.
You know, like feel that if you weren't good with communication and talking things out,
Yeah.
it could twist this family up into not being very friendly with one another.
Yep. By 1975, their daughter Dawn began having trouble sleeping. She claimed to her parents that she saw people floating around her in her room. Each time, Jack would investigate, but he never saw anything.
Always starts with the kids, man.
Mhm.
They concluded that this was their daughter simply having nightmares. At no point, though, did they think she was making it up. Dawn was a good kid and they trusted her.
2 years went by with strange happenings in the house. Toilets would flush on their own, radios played music without being plugged in, and they often heard footsteps in the house when no one else was home.
By now, Jack and Janet were convinced that something strange was happening in the home, but they still weren't too worried. They considered themselves to have common sense, and their belief in God led them to find it somewhat amusing that their house was, as they called it, spooked. Hey, you know what? I think they're having a pretty good attitude about this
They
so
are, yeah,
far.
they're like, hey, you know what? It's just a weird house.
Yeah, God is on our side. We're
Yep.
not too worried about it.
It was around that time that the family grew once again. Janet gave birth to twins whom they called Shannon and Karen. They were thrilled with their family, but little did they know things were about to get much worse.
One early morning, Janet and Jack heard their lawn chairs creak 3 times on the front porch as if someone was sitting in them. When they went to investigate, no one was there. However, the chairs were still moving.
Another time, Jack was lying in bed when he felt a gentle touch on his shoulder. He thought it was Janet being affectionate and turned around to reciprocate, only to find her fast asleep.
That to me is where I would start drawing lines.
Mhm.
I'd be like, all right, you know what? If this is your house, spirit, you're welcome to stay. But don't start crawling into bed next to me,
Mhm.
please. This is, like, don't be showing up in the bathroom mirror when I'm taking a deuce.
Yep.
Don't be showing up in the shower and don't be crawling into bed next to me and my wife.
There is one specific claim in this story that I think you're going to have a heyday with.
Oh boy, I can't wait. By 1983, the house had developed a foul odor. The kids would joke that it was their dad's smelly feet, and once again, they all laughed it off. Jack would later recall that the smell first happened one night when he was kneeling by the bed praying.
At one point, Janet contacted the Department of Mines to see if the strange smell was due to something in the area. They were told to check their foundation for cracks, but nothing was found. She spent almost a year trying to figure out what was going on with their home, but she would never get any actual answers.
I really appreciate the fact that they are going through normal avenues
Mhm.
to kind of solve these problems.
That's the thing about this family is they are very logical people.
Yes.
Their marriage by all accounts was very
Oh,
strong.
I love
They had a
that.
good family foundation and they kind of at the beginning tried to make the best of it.
I appreciate that very much. One day, Janet was in the basement doing some laundry. The house was empty and she'd left the TV on upstairs for some noise. As she loaded the washer, she heard her name being called. Janet knew she was home alone and immediately felt a sense of unease. Then she heard it again. Janet.
She heard it a few more times. At this point, she was terrified. Suddenly, she heard a voice right behind her. Janet. She spun around, but no one was there. Whatever this was called out to her again and again. She eventually responded by asking it, "What do you want?"
It simply replied, Janet.
Janet, completely terrified, screamed, "What do you want?" and heard a soft laugh. She slowly walked backwards up the stairs and heard it again. She ran all the way up and slammed the door behind her. Janet then fell to her knees in the kitchen and began to pray. She spent the majority of that day walking throughout the house and praying until the girls came home from school.
Again, this is where you've crossed a line.
Mhm.
I'm
Now you're
yeah,
terrorizing me.
you're terrorizing me, you're trying to scare me, and you're laughing at me. So
Mhm.
now I'm mad.
Mhm.
Not only am I scared, but I'm fucking angry about it
Yeah,
too.
now you're coming after me. What do I do?
So I'm gonna call an old priest and a young priest. She told Jack about what had happened. By now, they were more than aware that there was something strange happening in their home. He told her that they needed to get some help. The two had a deep distrust of those who associated with the occult and felt that the majority of them were con artists. Friends of theirs had given them names, but they didn't want to use someone they couldn't trust.
That night, Janet admitted to her husband that she was genuinely scared of whatever was in the house. Their children even noticed a shift in their moods. They saw that Jack was very, like, even for the time, he was just a really easygoing parent,
Mhm.
very loving, very kind, very patient. And he started to kind of develop this temper and he would snap more often. And it
Mm.
just wasn't like him.
They do say that. I mean, it was something that they talked a lot about in the Amityville case, which, as we know now, is
Mhm.
probably 99% sure that it's a hoax, but they talk about, yeah, these sudden mood
Yep.
changes and sort of these lashing out from people that would never do something
Yeah.
like that before.
And Janet too, she was just like Jack. She's a loving mother,
Mhm.
she's a good parent, she's kind, she's patient. She's gone from that to just they can tell that she's just constantly anxious.
Well, and speaking of anxiety, one of the things that can happen when you're a very anxious person or you're having an anxiety attack or a panic attack is that you get really irritable
Mhm.
because suddenly your capacity to deal with normal
Yep.
situations is a lot less. And the things that once upon a time or to a quote unquote normal person would be very easy to deal with,
Mhm.
you just don't have the capacity for that anymore because you're up here
Yep.
all the time. Few days later, Janet was doing housework when she felt a sudden chill in the room. She looked up and saw a black, human shaped form that appeared to be made of a thick, dark smoke. She began to smell that familiar, rotting stench as it moved closer to her. She wanted to run, but was paralyzed by her fear. Then it was simply gone.
She went next door to see her mother-in-law Mary and tell her about what happened. Because keep in mind,
They're in a duplex.
they're right next door.
Literally. There's a wall between them.
Yeah. When she arrived, she noticed that Mary was not her usual cheerful
Oh
self.
dear.
She told her that she had to tell her something, but Mary told her to wait. She had something to share too. Mary had seen the same apparition.
Oh, see, I don't like that because now it's just you validated
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Not only did I see it, and yeah, maybe there's a chance I'm crazy. Maybe there's a chance I'm losing my marbles.
Mhm.
But you've seen it and you weren't in my side of the house when it happened? Oh, hell no.
And the interesting thing here is they had a really good relationship, the 2 of
Mhm.
them, they're
I
friends.
think I would hope if you are sharing a duplex with your in-laws, I would hope you have a good
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah, very true. She goes over to her, and not only did Mary have the same experience, it happened at the same time.
Oh, yeah, awful. Turns out Mary and John had been experiencing many of the same strange things that their daughter and son had.
And it's kind of funny in the book because they talk about this exchange between Mary and Janet, and they kind of sit down, and immediately after sharing their story, they feel a sense of relief.
Okay.
And then they have this moment of, "Oh my god, we have to tell our husbands now, they're gonna think we're crazy."
They're going to think that we're just like hysterical
Yeah.
women kind of thing. Oh, days went by without anything happening. Janet believed that maybe whatever was haunting them had just gone away. Her and Jack chatted about it one night and hoped that they would be able to enjoy peace in their home from now on, but they were wrong because otherwise it would be a very short
It
episode.
would. That spring, Kim was preparing for her Catholic confirmation ceremony. Kim, Janet, and Shannon were in the kitchen when they heard a large tearing sound. Suddenly, the ceiling light came crashing down near them. Kim and Janet hid under the kitchen table, but Shannon was struck by the light.
Jack, upon hearing the commotion, came running downstairs. Shannon was only mildly injured, but had she been standing a few inches away, she could have easily been killed. Janet would later say that this is when she began to feel hatred for whatever was in their house. It had just tried to kill one of their children, after all.
Together, Janet and Jack began calling anyone they could think of to come help them. They informed several universities with parapsychology departments, but were told that they watched too many horror movies and were imagining things.
You're literally a university level psych, para, parapsychology department.
Mhm.
And you're like presented with this opportunity.
Yeah, and you're like, "No."
And you're like, nah, stop watching scary movies, kids. Near the end of April that year, the family decided to go on a camping trip. They had asked various neighbors to check on the house while they were gone. Several of them reported hearing screaming coming from inside the house. This was when the story of what was happening in the Smurl home began to spread.
And you need to keep in mind, Janet and Jack are huge members of this community.
Mhm.
She had founded a lioness group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So she was the head of that.
Okay.
Jack was a member of the Lions.
Yeah.
Like, they were well known, they were respected,
Mhm.
and they were known as a couple who had a really, again, a very strong marriage.
Yeah. And again, For me, this isn't necessarily like neither here nor there, but they were a religious couple.
Yeah.
They would have been part of their church
Mhm.
community too. And now they've gone off camping. They're nowhere near this home.
Yep.
And people in the community, their friends, are still hearing stuff from inside this
Yeah.
house. Oh, no, thank you.
By the time the school year rolled around, Janet took the 4 girls shopping for clothes. Jack had been coming down with something, so he went upstairs to read a book and rest. As he dozed off, he felt the sensation of floating in the air. At first, he thought he was dreaming, but when he heard the sound of cars going by, he realized he was fully awake. He began to panic and was thrust down into the bed by an unknown force.
He jumped up from the bed and saw that there was nothing there, but something had changed for him. He too was now terrified.
And again, things would only get worse.
In June of 1985, Janet and Jack were laying in bed cuddling when Janet was pulled from the bed. Jack grabbed onto her, but something had a hold of her leg. The harder he pulled, the harder it pulled too. Jack was paralyzed while his wife screamed in horror.
Then it let go, and Jack was able to move again. Then something began banging on the walls, followed by that familiar foul smell.
On one occasion, Jack also reported being sexually assaulted by the spirit. This time, it showed itself as an old woman with snake like scales. He also claimed that afterwards he was covered in a strange fluid. Oh, that's terrible. I'm so sorry, Jack. That is horrid.
Mhm.
Ugh, no, don't like that.
Yeah.
Keep your fucking hands to yourself.
Yeah. Soon after, the entity began to attack the family dog Simon.
No, this is where you've, like, no.
Yep.
Old priest, young priest, bring them all in.
Mhm.
Don't fuck with my dog.
He was a gentle-natured German
Ah!
shepherd who would often lay at Janet's feet while she was doing the dishes. One morning, he was there in his usual spot when he was suddenly lifted up off the ground and thrown against the kitchen door. He would also go into fits of howling and whimpering as if someone was hitting him.
Now, I know there's kids in this story.
Mhm.
I get that for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't have that relationship with kids because I'm not a mother. But if you fucking hurt my dog, I'd be like, sorry, Jack. We're out.
Mhm.
We're out. It doesn't want us here. It's hurting the dog. We're out. Like,
Yeah.
the line has been drawn.
And the sad thing is they I mean, this is their dog. They love their
Of
dog, but
course.
they were all very close. This wasn't like a dog that lived outside or anything like
Yeah.
that. Like, he was very protective of the children.
Oh,
He was
goddamn.
gentle, he was sweet, never had any issues with him, and now he's being targeted.
That's just rude and inconsiderate.
Mhm.
Not only that, Jack and Janet had also witnessed a dark figure resembling the dog on numerous occasions. Sometimes it would just stand there staring at them, and other times they heard it clawing at the door, begging to be let in.
Nope.
My dog, Buffy, sleeps on our bed with us.
Mhm.
If we were in bed and Buffy's also on the bed,
Mhm.
and something is howling and scratching at the door,
Mhm.
I would leave through the window.
Yeah, you'd be jumping out.
Like, see you later.
Mhm.
Sorry, Shane, in the next room. Hope you don't think it's Buffy.
The kids were affected too. Not only did they see how the stress of all of this was changing their parents, they also knew that something was wrong with their house. On one night, Shannon fell down the stairs in the middle of the night. She had been half awake and didn't remember getting out of bed. Her parents felt as if she may have been pushed. With this, they began their search again for someone who could help.
Janet began reading books about the paranormal in an attempt to better understand it. Hearing stories of other people's experiences provided her with the comfort and validation that she needed. She also sought the help from local clergy members who came by to bless the house, but this only seemed to make matters worse. She called upon 3 priests to perform an exorcism on the home, but this was unsuccessful.
Eventually, the Smurls contacted the diocese in Scranton. They put them in touch with a professor slash exorcist slash paranormal expert named Alphonsus Trebold, also known as Father Al. He was well known and trusted in both the Catholic and paranormal community.
In the past, Father Al had worked with Ed and Lorraine Warren, although it seems they had a bit of a complicated relationship in the sense that he wasn't a fan of how they handled themselves. He was never one to speak ill of others, but was quoted as saying that he had asked them not to publicly say that he was associated with them in any way. He's like, yeah, I might reach out for help from time to time, but we're not friends.
He had done it in the past and then regretted it.
Mm.
And then they kept saying that they're associated with
Oh,
him, and
because it
he
gives
was like,
them more
exactly,
legitimacy. And
exactly.
he's like,
He's
mm-mm.
like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't stand by you."
Absolutely not.
For more information about why he would say such a thing, check out our Amityville and Parent Haunting episodes, where we do discuss the Warrens in more
Mhm.
detail, because again, they are but a blip in this story.
Father Al visited the Smurl home and stated that he believed that they were being sincere about believing that their house was haunted, and he did not officially conclude that there was a demonic entity in their house.
After this, the Smurls contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren, along with their colleague Father McKenna. Their experience was pretty different.
From their initial visit, they both claimed to have sensed a malevolent energy within the home. It was present in not only a demon, but also an old woman, a violent young girl, and a man.
Ed would later say that upon entering the home, he felt a drop in temperature and witnessed a large mass form in front of him. He attempted to draw the demon out using holy water, and it responded by moving furniture around and making rattling sounds.
He also claimed that he saw a message scrawled onto a mirror that demanded the Warrens leave the home. After a few months of investigation, Ed Warren announced that he had a number of tapes where you could hear the sounds that the demon was making.
As far as the Warrens were concerned, the Smurl household was a site of demonic energy, and they had proof.
Paul Kurtz, a philosophy professor and chairman for the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, that's a lot, was not so convinced. He stated that the Warrens were not objective or impartial investigators, and he went as far as to call it a hoax, a charade, and a ghost story.
Kurtz also called their claims mishmash. He was reported as saying,
There is no explanation for the Smurl house, but I wouldn't simply assume it is a haunting. It seems to us that a great to do has been made about it, and we wonder if it is like the Amityville horror hoax, which was based on imagination rather than an actual haunting.
Stephen Kaplan, a director for the Parapsychology Institute of America, also said the case was a hoax. In October of 1986, a mentalist known as the Amazing Kreskin showed up to verify their claims.
He showed several ways that things can shake and move in the night without the aid of the paranormal. He eventually concluded that this, like the many other cases he had disproved, was likely a teenage prank. So he's like, your kids are fucking with you.
Yeah,
They're just moving shit around.
yeah.
Which, yes, I'm glad actually for someone called the Amazing Kreskin.
He's the most reasonable guy in this story.
Yeah, he was like, you know what? Maybe your stuff is moving around, but here's how it could happen in real
Yeah.
life, kind of thing. I appreciate that.
Others stated that the whole thing was simply the result of psychiatric issues that the Smurls were suffering from. There was some proof of this. In 1983, Jack Smurl had surgery to remove water from his brain. This stemmed from a bout of meningitis that he had when he was in his 20s.
The water in his brain had caused him to suffer from memory loss.
Meanwhile, reporters had started to swarm the Smurl house. They believed getting their story out would help them, but it led to a different type of harassment. They were constantly being questioned, and their phone was ringing over 100 times a day.
After a few months of this, it was announced that a book was coming out regarding their story and that they helped to write it. That book is the one that we use for the majority of the research for this episode regarding their version of the story.
When this book was announced, they thought it was going to be a bestseller. They were like, this book is going to do great. People are going to love this story. And then a lot of people read it and they were like, which, like I said, you made a really good point when you say you look at things like this and wonder to yourself, did it entertain me?
Yeah.
It is entertaining, but I didn't read it and think like, whoa, this is proof of the paranormal.
And to be fair, it's not necessarily a book that you might read it to be entertained,
Yeah.
but in your case, you were reading it because you were researching, right? You're looking for actual facts out of the case.
Yeah.
And so perhaps from that side of things, that perspective, maybe it is a crap book, but from an entertainment standpoint, it's all right.
If you look at it as a nonfiction book, you're gonna be disappointed. If you look at it as a fiction book, you're like, "Oh, this is a decent ghost story."
Fair enough. In 1991, a made for TV movie titled The Haunted was released about their story.
By then, the Smurls stated that things were still happening in their home, but it was nothing they couldn't handle. They eventually moved to another house where they did not experience anything strange. The current resident of their former home has also not experienced anything out of the ordinary.
That always seems to be the case.
Mhm.
There always seems to be sort of the main family or the main people we're talking about within this haunted home or haunted building. And the people before mention an inkling of something,
Yeah,
but then the people after are like, nah, dog, we didn't experience nothing.
yeah.
It kind of seems to always have that pattern.
It does. One of the only times where I think it's really the opposite was with the Perrin family, where
Right.
you can go there now and pay a bunch of money
That's true.
to sleep over there or to have
Yeah.
UFO sighting tours or whatever the hell they're doing over there.
Hmm.
But it really made me wonder about the validity of this story. And like we said at the beginning, we always try to explore kind of both sides. I like you, I think I'm somewhat of a believer. I would love to be a believer,
Hmm.
but I need proof.
To be honest, in this case, you had me until the Warrens showed up.
Yeah, same.
You know, like I said, I appreciate that most people in this story tend to be kind of logical. Like
Mhm.
the first conclusions they jump to are not, oh, we're haunted. It's,
Yeah.
oh, well, the town is on an old mine, or is there
Yeah.
gas escaping, or, we've had the house inspected, or what's going on. They're jumping to very logical conclusions and logical solutions, which I love.
Mhm.
Obviously, as it escalates and they get more scared, that's when the vulnerability really appears.
Yes.
And I don't know that the vulnerability is a crack for demons, but it's certainly a crack for the Warrens to slip
Yeah.
their way in.
Because I mean, with Ed and Lorraine Warren, now to kind of go off on a tangent, the other day I was watching Ghost Hunters
Of course.
because I haven't seen it in like 10 years. And I
Yeah.
was like, what are these guys up to?
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
still
yeah.
going. And one of the things I always liked about their show, I noticed it wasn't so much so in the more recent episodes,
Mm.
but they would explain it. They'd be like, oh, your house isn't haunted. It's actually this, or it's this, or
Yeah.
it's this. With Ed and Lorraine Warren, Ed shows up and he's like, demons.
It's kind of like the difference between Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures,
Yep.
where there's a certain level of legitimacy to the fact that and I think I've kind of said words to this effect before, where even the conclusion that you didn't expect
Yeah.
is still an answer.
Yes.
And that's what science is about. It's not finding any particular answer because that means you're biased.
Hmm.
You're just looking for an answer to a
Yeah.
question. Whereas Ed and Lorraine show up, they're already telling you it's demons.
They come into that house with a narrative.
I could be wrong, but I would assume that any house that Ed and Lorraine or any situation
Mhm.
that Ed and Lorraine have been called to, I don't think they walked away from one saying that, oh no, this isn't a haunting. I think they were all haunted
I
or
think you're right.
possessed or
There
whatever.
is a website for NESPR, which
Okay.
is the North American Society,
Oh, yes, we've talked about them
NESP,
before.
of
Paranormal
paranormal
research?
research, thank you,
Okay.
and it has all their cases listed on that
Right.
site. And again, each time is it was haunted, it was a demon, it was Annabelle, it was this, it was that. But I don't know if it's that they don't talk about the cases that ended up being nothing, or if there just weren't any cases to them that ended up being nothing. Because one thing that the Warrens loved was money.
I mean, that's it. Nail on head,
Yeah.
coffin closed.
And I mean, that's just a fact. They love to make their money and they love to write their books and give their interviews and teach their classes. And that went on towards all the way up until the end of their lives. I mean, even now, their son in law is in charge of
Oh,
everything
yes.
that they do. And we talked about this a little bit on Extra Credit with the whole thing with Annabelle.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's their legacy, it's how they make their money, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of money to be made, especially nowadays when you can turn it into what, a 5-movie franchise?
If not more, and don't get me wrong, I'm thankful for them. 'em. They're some of my favorite
They're
horror
great
movies.
movies.
Um, but just knowing that it stems out of a predatory couple
Yes.
taking advantage of people in very vulnerable
Mhm.
situations, whether it's truly some kind of spooky paranormal shit happening, or if it's just mental illness,
Yeah.
or just family domestic issues.
Yeah.
They swoop in, they make it all about them, and then they tuxedo mask out of the
Yeah.
window to make their movies and book deals.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that's that.
I'm excited to watch the new Conjuring
Me
movie
too.
because, like you, I do love those movies.
I
They're
do.
entertaining as hell. I a bunch of people on my Instagram went to, like, an early premiere of it,
Oh, I love
and they
that.
said that it's a good movie, but it doesn't feel like it's a good finale to the franchise. They were a little bit let down, so I'm
Oh.
excited for us to watch it and have our own experiences, and that is the story of the Smurl family haunting.
Let us know if you guys are gonna watch the movie.
Yeah.
We're gonna watch it at some point, I'm sure,
Mhm.
because again, it's my favorite. The very first one I watched, actually, Paige forced me to watch The
Mhm.
Nun because, as I've explained before, it takes a lot for me to sit down and watch a movie,
Yeah.
and so when I'm hanging out with my bestie Paige, she knows this about me, and often she will just throw a movie on while we're talking,
That's smart.
and then within 5 minutes of the credits, we're both paying attention to the movie, and she's suckered me into it.
I
But
love
anyway,
it.
we watched The Nun that way. I loved it. I thought it was a great cross between sort of a horror and an Indiana Jones movie.
Mhm.
And then we got into all the other ones, and I love them even more. And I'm not usually one for demons because it tiptoes into a territory that spooks me a little bit.
Okay.
Um, we talk about how we're skeptics and everything. I feel like demons are a lot scarier than ghosts.
Yes.
So sometimes I don't like to mess with that, but the movies are good. And so we will be watching the new one.
The original Conjuring movie, I really like. I don't know why, I really like to fall asleep to horror movies,
Mhm.
and that was my, like, bedtime movie for a solid 6 months.
That's fair. I get it. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
With that, we wanna thank everybody on our Patreon. We do have a free tier where you can get early episode reveals. We also have a sale going on Patreon that I just put up. So if
Yes.
you are a current member, you can upgrade for, I think, 50% off or something
Very
like that.
nice. Very nice.
We do have also a Discord, and we post a bunch of
Mhm.
extra stuff as well as video versions of all of the episodes if you want to see our faces.
Is the sale la, 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 is the sale still going on our merch store as well?
I believe that it's over.
Aw, shucks.
We did have someone message us that said that they bought themselves a shirt, and we're very
Hell
excited about
yeah.
that. But our merch is pretty reasonably
I
priced,
think so.
and there are sales all the time. So make sure you sign up
Yep,
for the emails, and you can get yourself some sweet Grim Curriculum merch
absolutely.
and help support the show. And as always, we do want to thank our top tier on Patreon, the Grim VIPs.
The wonderful and splendiferous Mayhem Mudkip, Nova, Kevinus Musicus, Lisa, Brian, Steven Centauri, Bob, Paranoid Pop Rocks, Judy, and Atlantean Jedi.
We appreciate y'all so much. You are amazing, and so are you,
The
dear
Titty
listener.
City, all of you.
And we've had some really fantastic engagement across all of our social media
Mhm.
platforms. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been checking out my little movie reviews. I really appreciate that. I have a whole bunch saved because I've been watching movies
Amazing.
nonstop.
I've been
So
really freaking enjoying
thank
them, to be
you.
honest with you. I think they're, as like I said before, they're short, sweet. They pop up on my Twitter or my Instagram or my Facebook or whatever. And I'm like, nice.
I love that. I
Yeah.
last night watched a movie from 1998 that I've never seen, and
Ooh.
so I'll be posting that one probably later today,
Love that.
but, I just if you have recommendations, send them my way. I will watch them, and I appreciate them, and again, thank you to everyone who's enjoying that. And thank you all for listening. This has been
The
The
Grim
Grim Curriculum.
Curriculum. I don't have a fact, but I have a hypothetical question.
Okay.
And this is something I think about probably far too much. If you could take your brain out and give it a good rinse, what liquid are you using to rinse it? And is that liquid warm or cold?
I feel like cold saline solution is my best bet.
Ooh,
Room temperature.
just like nice.
Yeah,
I
nice little dip.
I would like, and I specifically picture it in, we have these like stainless steel baking bowls
Yeah, yeah.
with cold ice water
Okay.
and then just like dunking my brain in and then just putting it back. I feel like that would feel so nice,
That would.
especially on the headache days.
Yeah.
Let me know what you guys would rinse your brain in.
Bye.
Bye. Shane or my sister said Mountain Dew.
Oh.
I was like, you nasty. Fucking gremlin.